think in America there's something about marriage that's broken. I can't fix that. However, what I am here to say is that you don't have to be married to have legal rights. It's not out of the question to say, look, I have some expectation that we're going to make sure everything's clear, and we're going to go through that exercise of saying, if you die, what's going to happen? I know that if I'm with a woman and I've invested in her for 10 years or whatever, and I don't want her to, if something happens to her, I want her ex-boyfriend or ex-husband to be able to come in and take everything, right? So ultimately, I think that it's not just a matter of the men doing this. I think the women have to think about this as well, because now women are making more money. Women have more money, women have more resources. And so as much as he's supposed to provide certain things for you financially, well, you now have the capacity to provide something for him. And I just think that that should be an all-around conversation. Like, what if this happens? A lot of economics and finance and investing really comes down to asking yourself, what if, what if, what if? In banking, they call that a stress test. Stress tests are when you take an institution, which is like your family or a bank or a school, and you say, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if that happens? What if that happens? And the reason you have so many people in America that are financially devastated, so many black people that are stressed out, hurting, angry, depressed, traumatized when their finances go bad is because they never ask that important question. Write this question down in the chat. What if? What if I lose my job? How long can I survive financially? What if my partner dies? How are we going to be okay? What if I can't work anymore? Like, what am I going to do to make money? What if something happens to me? Who's going to take care of my kids? And when you don't ask the what if questions, and this is why financial consciousness matters, because consciousness is heavily built on the idea of elevating your thinking. Consciousness is a higher frequency of thought where you say, gosh, okay, I'm processing this and I'm living in the fifth dimension where I'm looking at all the other things that could go wrong, all these other things that could happen. It's not the sixth dimension, it's not the fourth dimension, it's the fifth dimension, right? Just I'm a mathematician, I'm very precise. And one day I'll break it down for you. If you ever want to have a deep conversation, you can get some Kool-Aid or some weed or something, and I can break it down for you. But it's the fifth dimension where you have to live in this very complex place where you have to look at all the different what ifs, all the different possibilities, all the things that can go wrong, all the things that can go right, and just make sure you're ready. Because what happens is that you have a culture that trains you as Black people to be reactive and not proactive. You have a culture that trains you to be victims and not victors, as Bill Cosby used to say in his book. You have a culture that trains you to be sitting ducks, waiting for the next tragedy to smack you in the face, and then you say, "Oh Lord Jesus, oh my God, how could this happen to me?" What do you mean? How you didn't know diabetes was coming? You ate grandma's greasy chicken for 20 years straight. You really thought you would never be a candidate for getting your foot cut off from diabetes? You act like you think that was luck and happenstance or random choice. No, you prepared for that. You invested in your diabetes. You created a bad health portfolio to make sure that by the time you're 45 or 50, terrible things are going to happen. Maybe you were drinking liquor every single day. Maybe you were sleeping with 10,000 women and whatever and catching diseases. You were investing, you were building that life the same way a billionaire builds a portfolio. You did the same thing. The only difference is his portfolio is full of money and your portfolio is full of sadness and bad health. So the question is, what are you invested in? What are you thinking about?